Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom is back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives, and we've done it. We have finally done it after about a month, maybe even a little over a month since the release of American Frontier. We have finally gone and done it. I've done something which honestly I couldn't believe ever achieving in this game, and that is a max out of a super rare chunk. Now, if you guys know me, I've said in the past so many times, I hate maxing out super rares because they're just not worth it. It takes about 45k, I think 45 to 50k, something like that, to max out one super rare. And this is taking into account the 15 rares that I'm using, which I could be selling for an additional 15,000 to add to the bank. And when you think about it, you know, like maxing out, I think an ultra rare is like 60k, and the prices are just not worth it. It's too much of an investment to max out even one super rare, but I've made it my goal since the release of American Frontier to max every single American Frontier super rare that was released into the game, and that is exactly what I did. As you can see, starting from the Talladega, I have maxed out 40 American Frontier super rares. Now, I know there are only 37 in the game. Actually, there's 38 in total, but one's a prize car, so only 37 that you can collect right now or attain right now. But I have 40 maxed out because, as you can see, I have 2 flexes because they're amazing. And honestly, if I dropped a third flex, I would max a third flex as well. I also have 2 maxed out Integra Type Rs, which are integral cars, as well as the Ford Bronco V8 351 Windsor. So these 3 cars, they're also all Blossom choices, so I maxed them out in dupes because they're amazing. But today, I want to show you how some of these cars perform, because I feel like this is something that not a lot of players have achieved in the game yet, because even for whales, why would they max out every single super rare if they don't need to use it yet? And the reality is, you probably won't need to use a lot of these cars, but I'm going to showcase to you, I'm going to showcase them to you anyway, just in case some of them might be sleepers and they might be a bit more impressive than some people might think. So I'm going to introduce all the cars here. Some of them I'm going to show you comparisons. So we're going to start off the Ford Torino Talladega. I'm going to show you the times right here, and take these pictures, these comparisons, as just really vague points of reference, okay? These aren't, oh, just because the Ford Talladega got last place in the 1 mile comparison means it's trash and everything. I do have to say that the Talladega is actually quite bad, but you know, these are just vague points of reference. I basically just tested some cars against 4 other cars on literally 1 track set, which I think it would do well on, or it should supposed to do well on, or it would supposed to do well on, you know what I mean? Like, I put it on track sets where I think these cars would excel on, and you know, in some cases they shine, and in some cases they don't. So starting off the Ford Torino Talladega, as you can see, the track in question is the dry 1 mile standing start, and I put it up against some pretty tough competition, to be fair, in the Lamborghini Miura Roadster, the Maserati Ghibli SS, the Chevrolet El Camino, and the Charger RT. But as you can see, in terms of the times, it comes in dead last. It's quite sad. The main reason why I chose a 1 mile for the Torino Talladega is because it had MRA that wasn't completely trash. The 0 to 60 was decent. I mean, it's lower than the Ghibli and the Miura Roadster, and the top speed is considerably high. It's much higher than the Charger RT and higher than the Camino. So I thought, you know what, maybe it wouldn't come in last in this comparison. Maybe, you know, it will shine, but unfortunately it did not. It is genuinely depressing. It got last. And when you think about it, 72 handling isn't giving it much justice either, because it has worse handling than the Miura Roadster as well as the Ghibli SS. So not a great start, but that is the time for the Talladega. Like I said, these are just vague points of reference, okay? It's just 1 track against 4 other cars. No way am I going to test 37 new super rares on every track set in the game. I would actually shoot myself. I would not do that. That would take way too much time. The next car I decided to test out, though, now this one's really interesting, is the Acura 3.0 CL. 5.982 and 157. It bears the exact same stats as the rare version, which is the Acura 3.2 CL, which you can see in this comparison right here. Now, I really don't know why the 3.0 is a better car, because in terms of MRA, according to TDC at least, the 3.2 CL has better MRA as well. The only thing the 3.0 CL has going for it is that it is lighter. What I'm thinking is that the difference is in the decimals. So for the 3.2 CL, the 0 to 60 might be 59.8, but for the 3.0 CL, it might be 59.1, you know, or the handling, you know, for the 3.2, it might be 82.3. And then for the 3.0 would be 82.9, you know, something like that. So it's completely close, but the on-paper stats are basically the same. And here it is. I have two comparisons for the 3.0 CL because this first one was a mistake. I tested it on the city streets medium, but it was dry. And what was really interesting to see here was that the Chevrolet Malibu, which actually got a downgrade in terms of its RQ, it went from 39 to 38, is actually the best car for the job. It beats out the Chrysler 200 CEV, as well as this right here, the Acura 3.0, the 3.2 TL, as well as the Chrysler LHS. However, the big question is, does the 3.0 beat the 3.2? The answer is yes, and here's the testing on the wet city streets. Yes, this is the wet city streets medium, and once again, the Chevrolet Malibu coming in first with 1 minute 24 seconds and 13 milliseconds, beating out once again the Acura at 124.68. But the Acura 3.0 does beat the 200 CEV, the 3.2 once again, which is really nice to see. I mean, that is to be expected, as well as the Chrysler LHS. So at least for the city streets, we can conclude, or at least if you want to be even more specific, because I didn't test city streets small, at least for city streets medium, the 3.0 is better than the 3.2 CL, although they have like the same on paper stats. God. Anyway, moving on to the next car that I test, and that would be these two right here, the Avenger RT and the Integra Type R. So the Avenger RT is a really impressive car, 5.0, 89, and medium ground clearance. The main reason why I couldn't give this a proper test is because I'm testing these against other super rares I own, and you know that I don't like collecting super rares, let alone maxing out super rares, so I couldn't find any competitors within the RQ range for the Dodge Avenger RT. In fact, this was the only front-wheel drive performance tire car that was also medium ground clearance that I had at, you know, the RQ 40 to 42 range. So for that, I decided, you know what, let's just put it on a twisty road against some other low ground clearance performance tire twisty cars and just see how it performs. And the Avenger RT, I gotta say, it does pretty well. So here are the pictures. As you can see, first place is no surprise. It's the Integra Type R coming in at 114.25. Second place is a Blossom Choice Alfa Romeo Giulia TZ at 114.88, which is the cheapest car here at RQ40. And then next up is the Dodge Avenger RT. It actually coming in third place at 115.23, beating out the Jaguar XK8 at 115.73 and the Chevrolet Corvette C4 at 116. When you think about it, this car came in third place in my test, and it also has medium ground clearance compared to the other four cars, which are low. I have to say the Dodge Avenger RT is a pretty good car. I think it's a really good twisty car. I would use it on both city streets, the G-Force, the slalom, twisty, that kind of stuff. It's a pretty good one. Now, I know some people might probably get annoyed at my testing because they'll be like, oh, bless him, the cars that you tested the Avenger RT against aren't even that good. You should be testing it against this car or that car. Once again, like I said, guys, please, this is a really vague point of reference, okay? This is just to give you a slight idea of how it may perform. And the most important thing is, at least I'm showing you the exact time that the car is getting on the exact one track that I tested it on. I did not test the Explorer, I did not test the Aviat, because the main reason is I don't really have enough competitors in my garage to test it against. But I have to say, for the Chrysler Aviat, I wouldn't be using this for anything at all, because the Chrysler, not the Chrysler, but the Cadillac ELR coming in at 5.289 is just better in every way, so I wouldn't be using this. I maxed it out just because I had a goal, and that goal was to max out every American Frontier Super Rare I could achieve. The Ford Explorer, you know, it's like Cyberpunk. I've heard mixed reviews about it. Some reviews really good, some reviews really bad. I know Korn hates this car, but Leo endorses it. Not that Leo loves it, but he has told me that it's just not crap. You know, it's just not as bad as some people might think. It's not good, but it's just not that bad. That's what I've heard. I've never really used it. As you can see, I've had it for 13 days, 0 races, 0% win ratio. I didn't test the Acura TSX either because I feel like I wouldn't be using that too often, as well as the Acura SLX. So let's move on to the next car I think I'll be using. Now I have to say the Amc Javelin Amx is a massive disappointment. The MRA on this thing is incredibly weak. It's kind of that all-rounder car that kind of has a decent handling, decent 0 to 60 and standard tires, which kind of makes it obsolete. It's just going to lose everything by 50 or more. The next car that I do test though are the Broncos. I test the Bronco V8, the Ford Bronco, as well as the Ford Bronco V8 351 Windsor, and I tested them on 2 different sets of tracks. The first one, as you can see here, is the Twisty Road Dirt. Coming in first place is the Ford Bronco V8 351. That's no surprise at 148.97. However, here's the interesting thing. The Ford Bronco actually beats the Chevrolet K5 Blazer on the Twisty Road very slightly, as you can see, 149.90 to 150.07. So the Ford Bronco is actually pretty impressive when you think about it. It's not heavy. I mean, it's not light either. It's a heavy car, but it does edge out the K5 on the Twisty. Now, I do believe that that is the extra handling coming into play. And then, of course, the last 2 cars would be the Ram Charger at 150.47 and the Ford Bronco V8 at 150.155. Now, I thought that the Bronco V8 would be kind of the dark horse because although the stats are trash, it is an incredibly light 4-wheel drive off-road car coming in at 1,351. Now, if you want to know what the slalom time on this is, I think it's 51.51. Don't quote me on that. It's either 51.51 or 55.55, something like that. Like, the numbers are the same and it's in the 5 range. I'm not sure if that's a good time or not. I couldn't be bothered to test it. But I did test it on the second one, which was the Dirt Hairpin. So Twisty the Hairpin, this one's a little faster to see if there were any changes. First place is the same. It's the Windsor coming in at 105.19. But second place, as you can see here, the K5 Blazer does overtake the Ford Bronco coming in at 105.33. But look at the difference, man. The Ford Bronco, the red one here, the OJ Simpson mobile, comes in at 105.34. It's literally a 0.0001 difference in terms of the hairpin road. But once again, the K5, it's a win's a win. Last 2, the same, no change, would be the Ram Charger at 105.41 and the Ford Bronco V8 at 106.03. So really, the Ford Bronco V8 isn't going to be your dark horse. If it doesn't perform on the Twisty Road, it's not going to perform on the Twisty Circuit. It would be okay on the slalom, I think, but that's going to be it. When it comes to the G-Force, 64, that's just way too low, man. The Ford Bronco is 71 and the Windsor is 73, so no chance there. The next car I test out 2 would be the Ford Maya 2 EM because it has decent MRA at about 77, and I also test the AMC AMX/3. So as you can see here, I tested it on the 1 mile drag because these cars don't have particularly low 0 to 60s besides the El Camino, and they all have decent MRA. So in first place is the Chevrolet Corvette ZR2. 32.40 is the time. Second place is the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, 32.63. Third place, surprisingly, is the Camino at 32.86. And then the last 2 spots are taken up by the Frontier cars, the AMX with 33.15 and the Maya at 33.33. This was a little bit of a disappointment. I had a lot of hopes with the Maya 2, considering it was 4.40 to 60 to the Vantage's 4.3. I thought that the times would be a lot closer, but they really aren't. The Vantage is still the better car, and the Camino, although it doesn't really perform amazing on the 1 mile, it still edges out the Maya as well as the AMX. So these 2 cars, the Maya and the AMX, are quite disappointing, but I should give out an apology to the AMX. In the past, I have said that this car has 40 MRA, and that was wrong. That was me being incredibly stupid, and I'm so sorry if you believed me when I said that this car had 40 MRA. What happened was that I tested this car on the 0 to 100 to 0 instead of the 0 to 100, where else in actual fact, this car actually has an MRA of 75 after actually testing it on the right track, 0 to 100. 75 isn't bad, but once again, as you can see here, although it beats the Maya, it's not going to beat the likes of the Vantage or the Corvette or the El Camino. That being said, because I was under the impression that this car had 40 MRA, I did 323 it instead of drag spec it, but I don't really regret my decision because 4683 now makes it kind of like a fast circuit car and nothing else, nothing more. Moving on to my next test, I test out the Dodge Charger RT concept. Now, I had a lot of hopes for this.
4486. I decided this would be a fast circuit hairpin kind of situation, so that's exactly what I did. I tested on the hairpin, and there was a huge surprise, but the huge surprise didn't go to the Charger RT. As you can see here, this huge surprise went to the Lancia Stratus, or Stratos. It has the best time of 45.28, beating out the Roof SCR at 3RQ higher at 45.29. Very, very close, but the Lancia does win. Coming in third place now is indeed the Charger RT Concept at 45.39. That is actually a pretty decent score, considering it's only 0.1 seconds off a car that is 3RQ higher, and it beats the Camaro Z28 as well as the Aston Martin DB7. Both cars have higher RQ than the Charger, so the Charger, I would say it performs pretty well. It would be a decent hairpin car, a decent fast circuit car, and I would be okay with deploying it on the G-Force as well as the Test Bowl. Now the Test Bowl is definitely going to lose, but probably only by 50 to 60, something like that, if you put it up against, you know, the 1 mile cars that we tested before. So I have to say it's not bad. 4486 compared to the Camaro's 4586 or the Aston Martin 4585. I genuinely don't know why that DB7 is RQ47. The stats are really bad when you think about it, but the Charger RT, that's where it stands, kind of middle of the pack when it comes to the hairpin road. The next car that I want to test would be my drag spec Ford F-150 Tremor. I've talked about this in the past. This car is actually pretty damn good on the hill climb, but I'm going to reiterate it again just in case you're watching this video. It's a huge informative video right here, and I hope you enjoy this kind of video. Let me know if you do, because if you do, I'll make more of them. They take a lot of time, because testing all these, I mean, it's a lot of races. I've done probably like about 100 races just to get you all these pictures over here. The first one is the hill climb dirt. I tested this car on the hill climb dirt. I think the only way to max out this car is drag spec at 996 or 332, and here's how it stands against its competitors. It comes in first with a time of 26.90, beating out a 332 Yukon Denali. Now the Yukon Denali has a very low 0 to 60. It's also 4-wheel drive, and for the Tremor to actually beat it is quite impressive if you ask me. 27.05 is the time. It also beats the Durango GT at 29.91, as well as the Chevrolet Suburban at 28.06, and of course the Ram Rebel at 27.26. Now I do apologize that I did not put these times in order unlike the rest, but the main thing is the Tremor is the best car here. It even beats out the Rebel, which is a 4-wheel drive off-road tire car, so that is incredibly impressive. Now before you argue, you know, the Rebel has no top speed, the Rebel actually has higher top speed than the Tremor. So I would say that the Tremor is really, really impressive. I also just for fun tested it against the Trailblazer, but the Trailblazer smokes it. It's in the 24s, I think, the Trailblazer. It destroys everything on this list, so I didn't even bother to put it on here. The next test that we want to do will be the City Streets tests. So as you can see, I did a couple of skips here, but all I can say is that the Acura RSX, you know, props to this car, is absolutely fantastic. I think it's the best city street small car. And then you have cars like the Flex, which I didn't even test. You have to take my word for this. It's a Blossom Choice car through and through. It destroys literally every 4-wheel drive standard tire car in the game. As long as it's not a slalom, this thing will wreck. I love the Ford Flex so much. I mean, at the end of the day, I can just showcase 104 races, 89% win ratio. The second one, 87 races, 91% win ratio. I know the win ratio has gone down since the last time I showcased it, but once again, the Flex is absolutely amazing. So anyway, the next thing I want to test are the City Streets cars, namely the Dodge Charger RT, as well as the Acura TL Type S. So first one I'm testing it on is the City Streets small. As you can see, nothing beats the Ultra Rare, which I decided to throw in here just for fun, at 37.68, but the Charger RT does have a better time than the Acura with 38.01, the Acura TL Type S 38.15, and finally the Chevrolet 6.0 liter SSR at 38.21. Now moving on to the bigger City Streets at City Streets Medium, once again, no surprise, the Neon comes out on top, but once again the RT beats the Acura again, once again 48 beating 49 on both City Streets. 1:14.55 is the Charger's time, 1:14.61 is the Acura TL Type S's time, and 1:14.78 is owned by the Chevrolet SSR. So I gotta say, the Charger RT, also a Blossom choice,
best one for the City Streets medium, and then the Type S is best one for the City Streets small, if I do recall correctly. Now, the last cars that I want to test, now this one's a huge surprise, is actually the Dodge Razor. Now, I was admittedly at first really disappointed with the Razor because I think it was one of those American Frontier prelims, you know, for the Koenigsegg 1.1 when the update came out and you had to use American Frontier cars. I was using the Razor and it was getting its ass handed to it by the Integra, which I didn't test, the Integra Type R. I think the tracks were like slalom and car park and all that kind of stuff, and the Integra kind of just swept the floor with that. This thing is absolutely insane. I don't even need to test it. Like, honestly, the cars that I have in duplicates, they're Blossom choices. You should get them anyway. But the Razor was a disappointment back then, but now I might have found where it is, you know, where it shines. So I tested on the fast circuit, and it actually came out on top with a really impressive time of 109.01. It actually beats the RQ49 Opel GT at 109.18. Now I know what you're thinking, the Opel GT doesn't have MRA, so is this even a good achievement? Well, it kinda is, because the Opel GT beats out the likes of the Jaguar XKR 100 at 109.53, a car that has these in MRA. It also beats the BMW Z4 3.0 SI at 109.55, and of course the Dodge Venom limping in last with a very disappointing time of 109.86. When you think about it, 4.390, you would expect better from the Venom, but it actually is completely slow, almost an entire second slower than the Razor. Now, the Razor, once again, 0.6 difference to 60, but coming out on top. The Razor is a lot more impressive than we think it might be, at least on the fast circuit. Now I'm starting to think that it might be pretty decent on the hairpin road as well. But those are all my tests. If you're interested in anything else, let me know down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer your questions. The RDX is just a better version of the Atlas, but the Atlas is just the worst version of every car in the game. The 300S, I think Android said something weird about how this wins City Streets small, but the gray version wins City Streets medium, something like that. The Hemi, I am bothered to test. I don't think I'll be using this anytime soon. It's an all-rounder that loses at everything. The F-150 doesn't look too bad at 4.383. Thinking about it, maybe I should have slapped it in the City Streets medium comparisons as well, but I do know for a fact that the Charger RT does beat the F-150 Lightning. The Mustang Cobra is a pretty interesting car that I should test for the future. Maybe if I do a part 2, I might test out the cars that I didn't test today, like the Cobra, the Integra, and the ILX, which for the same reasons alone I maxed it out just because I needed to. It was more of an obligation than something I was interested in doing. 5484 and 144, that's a lot of 4s, man. 444. But yeah, these are all the cars. If you're interested in anything here, I actually have used the Copperhead a decent amount in clubs. 4991 isn't too bad. I think it has been, yeah, as you can see, 37 races, 89% win ratio. Maybe I should do a part 2 with some other cars. The Chrysler Chronos, this one is kind of decent, 4.90 to 60. It has a decent MRA at 77, so it has that going for it. But anything else here, I wouldn't say nothing else worth keeping. I would say the ones that you should really keep if you don't have them already would be the Flex, the Charger RT, the Acura RSX Type S, the Windsor, as well as the Integra Type R. I think those are the ones that you should really keep. The RT looks decent, to be fair, but some real disappointments here would be the Bronco V8, the Maya EM, the AMX. You know, these cars are, you know, just they underperformed. And the Venom also underperformed. But yeah, those are my picks. That's my collection of all the Super American Frontier Supers in the game. So I hope you found this video informative. Once again, if you like this kind of video, you like the style of video, this analysis kind of video, let me know down in the comments below. I can make a part 2 if you want to see it. But with that said, guys, I hope you have a great day. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.